Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
Hi there. I'm Ralph. I'm behind the camera.
And welcome to Cavalcade of Food.
Up at the cottage.
At the cottage. It's still summer, and summer's going by so fast I can't believe it, Ralph. I mean, I want to think about it, I'll get depressed. But anyways, this is how we mark our life, right? Going through each season, year by year.
Seems like the cottage season gets shorter and shorter every year.
It does. So you know what? That means we need to make the most of it while we have the opportunity.
Or bake the most of it.
Yes, we're going to bake the most of it. So we're going to bake today. We're going to do a pie. This is a pie that really takes advantage of one of our favorite ingredients, rhubarb. Now, here in Michigan, the rhubarb season starts late May and goes through June. Is when you usually see the harvest of it. Although it grows beyond that.
And you finally planted some rhubarb of your own this year.
I did. So next year, our friend Cam gave me a rhubarb plant, and then I planted 4 or 5 additional ones from a root, and they have grown through the dirt, and they'll get big pretty fast, and we'll be harvesting our own rhubarb. I usually go and pick it at our friend Sue's house,
and in the early days we were searching high and low for it and finding it only in seasons. But now
we could get it at the farmer market in season. So this is a rhubarb pineapple pie.
Now that sounds different.
Okay, especially because you've got the rhubarb, which we know is tart, but the pineapple is sweet. So you're going to have the sweet and the tart kind of combined.
Which is always a good combo.
So every pie starts with the crust. And sometimes we don't have time, and we go to the store and we get a ready-made crust that you just roll out and put in the pie pan. Today we're going to make our own because we have a little time. So let's go through this. First of all, Ralph, here I've got 2 cups of flour. Okay. To that flour, I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to add a teaspoon and a half of sugar. Okay? Now we're going to kind of put all that together here.
Right, those are the dry ingredients that mix together first.
Yeah, and everybody's got a pie crust recipe they like, and this is the one that I've sort of become accustomed to using.
What's different about this one is you're going to be using tender flake.
Right, so for my shortening, we're using lard. This is actually tender flake. This comes from right across the lake in Canada, and our dear friends Mike and Sandy bring this to me. They're Canadian. When they come to visit, I get some tender flake because they know I love to bake. And when I go over to Sarnia shopping once in a while, love to shop in Canada. It's fun, isn't it, Ralph?
It is.
I always buy some tender flake.
Yeah, they always have different products than we have here.
It's just so nice. So here it is, and it comes in a block like this. We need 2/3 of a cup. Well, okay, there's different ways you can measure this. I'm going to measure by what we call a displacement method, okay? So I've got my measuring cup here, and I've got it filled with water, cold water, to the 2-cup level, all right? Now what I'm going to do, Ralph, is I'm going to put in my shortening here, and when the water level goes up to 2 2/3, I know I have 2/3 of a cup of shortening. You see?
It's like
that's displacement.
It's like when you and I go in the lake and the water level gets displaced.
Goes to an all-time high. All right? So a little bit more. Perfect. Great. Right there. All right? So this represents then 2/3 of a cup of shortening.
Oh, fun.
How about that?
Pretty crazy.
So now that I've got that, I'm going to take the shortening and I'm going to just chop it a little bit into some smaller pieces. I'll do that right in the flour with this knife.
Is this also what you would use that cutting thing for it? You know, that
pastry blender? Yeah, which I'm going to use that next. I just want to
break this down a little bit.
This down.
So this was cold or room temperature?
Cold. That's when you're making a pie crust. You want your shortening to be cold. Everything should be cold. Now, you could also use half shortening, half butter. Okay, because butter is a shortening too. Basically, shortening is a fat. So you could use half butter, half shortening. Sometimes we use vegetable shortening, like a Crisco, right? Instead, I really like the flavor that a lard brings to a crust.
Yes,
I think it's really good.
If you ever had a mom or a grandmother that used to make pies, they probably used lard, and it's not something you can really taste right away, but you know the difference when you have had it made with lard.
And it sure makes it for a flaky crust.
It does.
Vegetable shortening does too, and butter. I mean, you can achieve it regardless, in using different kinds of fats. But this is, again, we're all about using what we have on hand, so this is what we're doing. So, okay, so I'm just, what I'm doing here, and we've made pie crust on Cavalcade of Food before, but this is called cutting in. I'm cutting in the shortening. So basically, what I'm doing is this pastry cutter, which has 4 blades here, is chopping up those hunks of shortening into smaller pieces and adhering it to the dry mixture of flour, salt, and sugar until we kind of make sort of a bowl here of texture that looks like some kind of small peas or a really rough ground cornmeal or something like that. You see what's happening in there?
Yes.
Well, so this is all coming together. I'm going to do a little bit more here.
So you just want a certain consistency. You don't want big lumps, but
right.
You don't want it completely dissolved either.
Because see, when the pie crust bakes, that fat melts and it gets between the flour, and that's what makes the flaky. Okay? All right, this looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this off here. And another way to do it is some people kind of holds together. All right.
So that you're kind of testing it as you're touching it.
Now we have to put some liquid in here. Some people use vinegar. I've even known some people to use vodka.
Really?
Yeah. It's a waste of good vodka if you ask me.
Yeah.
But they swear by it.
Huh.
But what I just use is cold water. And I mean, I like to keep it cold. You can see I got some ice cubes in there. And this usually takes about 6 or 7 tablespoons. I'm going to put 3-4 tablespoons in right now. And I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to toss it around.
So you just kind of test it with you don't put it all in at once.
You do not want this too wet, but you want all of this to come together into one solid kind of mass here. Now see what's happening?
Yes.
You see how it's starting to clump together into one big thing? So let's put in a couple more tablespoons of water. And we're using the cold water because we really want to keep that shortening cold. We don't want the shortening to melt until it gets into the oven, see? Which is why a lot of people say, boy, I make a mess, don't I? People say that when you handle this with your hands as little as possible, because
even your hands have heat that can melt it down.
Exactly. Our body temperatures are almost 100 degrees, and so
yeah, I heard that recently. It it shouldn't have surprised me, but I had never thought about that. It's funny, the little things. I know that with the drinks, like martinis and stuff, they say you don't hold it by the you hold it by the stem so that you don't warm up the drink. That's because it's best when it's super cold.
And those are drinks, that are made in a shaker with ice, but there's no ice in the glass.
Right.
So they can get warm rather quickly.
Yeah, if you're manhandling it or putting your paws all over it.
All right, so now what I want to do is, this is pretty good right here. I don't want to get this much wetter than this. You want it should all stick together. which it's doing.
So would you use about 6 tablespoons?
I think I use 7, actually.
Okay, so you kind of have to feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel right?
Yeah, this is good. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to basically cut the dough in half, because one half is going to be for our bottom and one half is going to be for our top.
So you just eyeball it and kind of separate it into halves. Got it. Okay.
Then I'm going to wrap these both in plastic wrap, and they're going to go in the refrigerator for about a half an hour. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Because again, I can already feel this is getting warm.
So
Just from the little bit of working with the pastry that we've done, and we really want it cold. So we're just gonna tear off a piece of plastic wrap.
Are these 2 clumps of dough going to be your top and bottom
crust.
layers? Okay.
Crust, right. So here, I'll do the same for the bottom layer. We're gonna put this in the fridge, and we'll come and fetch it in about a half an hour or so and roll it out and get it into our pie dish. In the meantime, I'll get ready with our other ingredients, the rhubarb, the pineapple. By the way, we're using a crushed pineapple, which comes in a can. And I put it in a strainer because you really want to drain this pineapple out. Okay? This is a standard 20-ounce can of crushed pineapple, and you can see we got some pineapple. We'll have to make something with that pineapple.
Oh yeah,
juice.
don't waste that. We'll make some kind of fun drink.
Yeah, but that's our pineapple for the pie. The rhubarb I've got over here because we had that frozen as well. Rhubarb freezes beautifully, by the way, so if you really only get it in the early summer, get as much. If you like rhubarb, buy all you want, chop it up, wash it, chop it up, okay, in the freezer. So
look at that rhubarb.
Look at that rhubarb. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
So we're going to put our filling together now, Ralph. What I've got is about 3 cups of rhubarb. Okay. Now this was frozen. I thawed it, so it's soft. It's already tender. You can see it's got a little water in it too.
It's such a unique flavor, but you have to definitely put something sweet on it. Like we've often said when we were little, we used to dip it in sugar. When it was growing wild. But the rhubarb looks like celery, so if you wanted to, you could probably use celery instead, right?
Why not? You could make a celery pie, savory. Well, maybe we'll work on that.
Ooh.
All right. So I pretty much drained this was a 20-ounce can of crushed pineapple. All right.
Right.
And so we've got that. This is the juice that was left over. That might make for a nice
beverage,
pina colada or something. Okay. So rhubarb, pineapple, 1 1/4 cup sugar.
Even though the pineapple's already sweet.
Yeah,
wow.
but the rhubarb's so tart.
And then the sugar kind of helps to create
a syrup.
Syrup, yeah.
Or syrup.
Syrup.
As my brother would say. Now you've got 1/3 of a cup of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. Okay, we're going to put that in there. And then you always need to put a little salt. Not a lot. About 1/8 of a teaspoon or so.
Right.
Okay, the salt sort of heightens the sweet.
Yeah.
Then the only spice we're going to put in here is a little cinnamon. Cinnamon just works beautiful in fruit pies. You know what I mean? Of all kinds, I think.
Yeah, cinnamon.
Not a lot. We're just going to put in 1/2 teaspoon. So it'll just kind of be there in the background. Okay, so it won't have all right. So let's, then we're just going to kind of stir all this together. And we'll have our pineapple rhubarb filling.
So what does the flour do?
The flour helps to thicken it.
Oh, now what about cornstarch? Could you use that?
Yes, you can. And a lot of people prefer to use cornstarch. A lot of people use tapioca. As a thickener.
But that would probably make it more, almost like, would that make it more like, I don't know, like if you didn't use flour, or if you used something like cornstarch, then you wouldn't have like the juices running out.
Well, you
Which
don't
some
want it
people
too watery, right? You know, you want to kind of have
Thickness.
a thick gelled center. So hopefully we will. All right, we've got. All right, our filling's good to go.
Looks good already.
Put this over here now for our pie crust pastry. I like to use a cloth. I like to roll on a cloth, and this is just flour in a little shaker jar here. And I like to use a pastry cloth on my rolling pin. But you know what, folks? Use what you like, whatever method you have. This is what works for me.
Is this what your grandmother used to do?
Well, no, I don't think she used a pastry cloth, actually. I know my mom didn't.
But I like this idea of like just kind of putting it on a cloth and then putting the flour down and then rolling it a bit.
Yeah, that helps get the flour into the fibers of the cloth and the rolling pin cover. And then, you just throw it in the wash and...
Okay, so now you're getting your dough out, which has been chilling for almost an hour.
Yeah. So it's nice and cold, okay? And what we're going to do is we'll take this one and we'll start to roll it. This will be for our bottom. Okay. There's our pie plate, so that kind of helps guide me in terms of what size this crust needs to be.
I'm listening to some old Chet Atkins,
Early
Chet Atkins that Kevin brought or picked up recently. Floyd Kramer and some early Oscar Peterson.
Oh, he's great too. All right. So here's our bottom crust, and then I lift it like so. See? Then this is always a little bit of a trick. Now we're going to arrange it here.
And that's part of why you want it cold, so that it's easy to fit on there in case you need to move it without it tearing.
Exactly. And we want to handle it as little as possible.
But in a way, now your hand's warmth is coming in handy to soften the edges.
Well, I'm just trying to get this to fit into the pan and to make sure that we've got good coverage all the way around. Okay? Now we're going to take our filling and we're going to put our filling in the pie.
Remember that song by Morris Albert?
Which one?
Fillings, nothing more than fillings. Fillings.
Okay. All right. There's our pineapple rhubarb center. By the way, oven is preheating to 425 degrees. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit more flour down. Get that. Now we're going to do our top crust, but I don't want to forget something. Butter. Sometimes you'll see a recipe, it says dot top with butter. What do they mean? They mean this. You're going to put little pats of butter just throughout.
So this is just regular unsalted butter?
Mm-hmm. And this will do two things. One, how can't butter make it delicious?
So one thing it'll be doing is adding to the deliciousness.
Yeah, and the butter will mix with the flour when it melts and bakes. And of course, we know butter and flour is a nice helps thicken things. Yeah. All right. So there's our butter.
So it probably also keeps it from burning.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, all right. I'm going to roll this out. We'll come back. Okay.
How did it work
I did
out?
just like I did when I did the top crust. So what I do now is I try to join. See, Ralph, you have the top and you have the bottom crust.
Mm-hmm.
I try to join it together.
Like pinch
and
it?
Fold it under.
Fold it, okay.
All right. So kind of gives. Now sometimes you got a lot of extra crust here, so
you could trim it?
You could trim it. If it's really way too much, I trim it, but otherwise I just fold it all under.
We wouldn't want anybody to think this was store-bought, so you can...
It will not look like a factory-made pie, I promise. All right. Then we like to put a little bit of what we call a scalloped edge, which is just what I'm doing here. I'm using the index finger and thumb of my left hand and index finger of my right to make
like a little
the
crimp.
scallop. Yeah, make a little crimp, exactly. Crimpa. You could, some people do a fork edge where they press the edges down with the fork, certainly an option. Okay. There we go. Now, because it's a fruit juicy pie,
You have to
we need
air
some ventilation.
Ventilation, yes.
So I'm going to cut some air holes here or in the
Slits.
pie. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're going to put a little hole in the center. Take that crust out there. There we go. All right. Now, I also like to just sprinkle a little sugar on the top.
You could also brush butter on the top.
You could brush, or an egg wash is
Or
what
an
a
egg
lot of
wash, that's
people
what I
like
meant.
to do. Yeah.
Yes, I did that one time I made the spinach pie.
And it really helps make it brown, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put a little sugar on top of the crust. Now I'm going to put it in the oven. It looks like, let me check my oven temp. Yeah, we're good. Here's what I like to bake my pies on, because
Paisan.
we love our vintage stoves. They are
Yes.
not self-cleaning, okay?
So you
They're
gotta-
Kevin cleaning.
So you gotta
Okay.
minimize the cleanup.
So, yeah, so if the pie bubbles over, as fruit pies often will do, I don't want to deal with the mess. So what I do is I have a pizza pan here. See, it's got the holes. That lets the heat through. And I put just a little piece of foil,
Pizza Paisan.
and I put the pie on top of there to catch any, all right? Kind of spill over. And it goes. This is going to need at least an hour to an hour and maybe 5 minutes. We'll take a... Okay, it's been almost an hour. And the whole kitchen just has that pie smell, doesn't it, Ralph?
Oh, it smells
You
wonderful.
And, all right, so we're going to, let me shut this off here. And let's take her out. Look at
Wow, nice and golden brown. And that's without brushing any butter or egg wash.
No, I like it. It has a little, the sugar almost gives it a little sparkle.
See it bubbling?
You can see it bubbling over there. So now what I'm going to do is I've got a cooling rack set up here. We're going to take it off. We're going to put it right there. Now here's the thing. Pies really do take a fair amount of time to cool.
That's why people put them on the windowsills and they get stolen.
That's right. Well, we're not going to put ours on the windowsill, but we're going to leave it there. And it'll need a few hours to cool down. It really will, because
It'll be ready for us when we come back from dinner.
yeah, that interior is really hot, and it's covered. It's surrounded
So
by
it's
this
like insulated.
blanket of pastry. Exactly. Although, you know, we did have some air holes here, and you can feel it coming out. But look how it's still bubbling right there.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're just going to let it cool, do its thing, and we'll come on back and.
Does it continue to bake while it's, you know?
Well, you know, the plate, the pie plate is still hot, but
the trick is to kind of watch it while it's in the oven, like, you know, keep it in for the amount of time.
you know, after it's in about 50 minutes, that's generally when I start checking on it. You
So-
know, all ovens, this oven runs a little fast, which means it's a little bit hotter than you think it would be. So if you have it set, you know, it might be 10 or 15 degrees hotter. So
How long has it been in this one?
about an hour.
Okay, so what I was going to say is you can maybe check it and then give it a little extra minute or two to get even more golden brown, but it will continue to kind of
Yeah.
heat up and cook a little bit of the inside.
And then, you know, the edge crust here, you can see is really golden brown. If you wanted to keep that lighter or prevent it from getting any more brown, but you wanted the top to brown, then you could put tin foil around it, or they even make these pie rings that kind of just, they're metal bands that just sort of sit over the top, the edge of the
because
crust. The edge can get more dark brown than the center, as you can see, but I like the look of that.
Yeah, that's a fine looking pineapple rhubarb pie.
Yeah.
But the
all right. Well, it's been about,
is it cooled
it's
off?
actually, it's been about almost 4 hours.
And it's still a little warm.
It is just slightly warm on the bottom. But boy, that's beautiful looking, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is.
So, it looks good, but what do you always say, Ralph?
The testing is in the tasting.
Testing is in the tasting. So let's cut a piece here. I'm going to cut through. Boy, that crust is nice and flaky. Okay. Get around
I'm curious to see what it looks like on the inside, if it's going to be kind of yellowish from the pineapple.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
You got a few little pieces of red in there where the rhubarb's kind of poking through, right?
Yeah, this would be a good pie to put ice cream or whipped cream on top.
It would be. Maybe I don't know if we have any ice cream.
That sort of thing.
All right. So here's the crust. Let's get this was sort of in the in the pan. This is the bottom of the crust.
Oh, it looks good.
So you know it's sort of
good crust.
Flaky. Yeah.
All right. So now try the filling.
So here's our filling.
It's a good sized bite.
Yeah.
Okay. We've made contact.
Oh.
Is it sweet enough?
It's sweet, but you're still getting the
tartness of the rhubarb?
The tang of the rhubarb. Really good.
Wow, so this is the first time you've ever made this?
Never made a pineapple rhubarb or a rhubarb pineapple pie, whichever one you want to put
and
first.
It's going fast.
This I like. It's unique. It's really something different. Great way to use up that rhubarb if you've got it in the freezer like I did. And really a nice pie. So, I'm gonna have one more bite. You want to try?
Yeah, I'll get some in a minute.
Okay. Good. Be great with vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. Well, we certainly had fun putting this episode together. At least Kevin did. I had fun watching.
When I stop eating, I'll concur. It was. We had a great time putting this one together. Hope you had a great time being with us. And you know what? We'll see you all next time right here on Cavalcade of Food. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.